Good morning and welcome to this morning's reflection. Today I would like to begin with some questions. The first one being, what do you really want in your life? Or put another way, what is your deepest desire? What would make life for you meaningful? Now, these are good Lenten questions, and we can't answer these in 1 or 2 minutes. They need to be taken into prayerful reflection. You might also like to consider the type of person that you are becoming. What would the people who have interacted with you in the last while say about you? And is that who you want to become? What kind of disciple are you being called to be? And what are your gifts, and are you using them as you should? What patterns are shaping your relationship with God, with others, and with self? You see, it's our daily patterns that determine the quality of life and its meaning. Human life needs structure. If it does not have structure, then our days are shaped by distractions, by urgency, and by our reactions. Now, we could call this structure a rule or a routine. St. Benedict would have called it a rule. A rule is not a law, but rather a trellis. A trellis. So if you imagine a vineyard, vines grow on a trellis, or I think the word is a rule, another name for a rule. And the trellis gives the vine support and allows it to thrive. And so a rule of life gives us support and allows us to thrive because it makes God central to our lives. And I suppose the question that we ask when we come to draw up a rule of life is, how do we arrange life so that God is at its center? When we write a rule, we are choosing to give time and space to what is important. We commit to daily prayer, to showing up in our relationships, to working with integrity. We commit to faithfulness. A rule ensures that we turn again and again and again to God. It is a gentle anchor in the spiritual walk. And so when we come to write a rule of life, we have to acknowledge where we need transformation. And that's where we need to concentrate our time and our efforts. And so we might consider, what am I neglecting in prayer? Or where am I neglecting prayer altogether? Where am I consuming too much? Too much television, too much internet, too much food, too many podcasts. And where am I avoiding difficult relationships? Where am I resisting forgiving another? And so this rule grounds us in God, in God's love. And it is that love which, when we are grounded in it, flows through us and brings life to the world around us. A rule also brings balance to our lives and reminds us to balance work, family, rest, spiritual practices, and self-care. A rule gives life rhythm and direction, and it leads to a quiet, calm, and less hurried life. When we write a rule, we begin one step at a time. We start with one thing, perhaps reading scripture in the morning for 10 minutes, or walking 3 times a week, or pausing at noon to pray. We begin where God is leading. And once this one practice has become part of our routine, part of our rule, we can add another. But we must remember that life is filled with busyness and that God overlays all of that. We have times of intentionality, but God is present throughout our day, in all of life's fabric. And so a sample rule could be read and meditate before breakfast and at the close of the day. And then give thanks throughout the day, and perhaps intentionally at mid-morning, noon, mid-afternoon, and evening. At mealtimes to sit down with those in your household and give thanks for the day. Give thanks for one another. To slow down. And perhaps in that rule might be some form of exercise so that you look after your body. And most definitely in the rule would be turn off the television. A Benedictine rule is not written once and forgotten. It is revisited. It is revised as circumstances in our lives change. And Lent reminds us that growth is ongoing. And so perhaps this season you write a simple rule, a commitment to daily prayer, a commitment to weekly reflection, a commitment to one act of service, a commitment to silence. And then at the end of Lent you review it. What helped? What was unrealistic? Where did God meet me? And so the rule becomes a dialogue, not a performance. Writing a rule of life during Lent is ultimately about returning to the heart. It is about saying, Lord, I want my ordinary days to belong to you. In a chaotic world, structure becomes freedom. In distraction, discipline becomes devotion, and in weakness, grace sustains us. May this Lenten season be a time of honest reflection, courageous writing, and faithful living. And may your rule of life not feel heavy, but hopeful. May you be blessed today. Amen.